God bless you. Thank you for joining me. I hope that wherever you are, you have an opportunity to sit with a cup of coffee, if that's your thing, in some beautiful place and just reflect upon the goodness of God, His Word, and all that He has to show us in it. So I want to share some things from 1st and 2nd Timothy today. These are scriptural things, of course, but it also does apply to our everyday life because I have a theory that the more that you say yes to crazy, the more crazy you become. And I think that's certainly true and evident in the world in which we live. Because if you just look at the things that people have come into agreement with and how it's more and more and more crazy. And you can't even believe that somebody would think that men can menstruate. That is insanity. And so I think that the more that you come into crazy, the more crazy you become. The more you come into agreement to crazy, the more crazy you become. So keep in mind, this is biblical, what I'm sharing, but it certainly does apply to the world in which we live today. So we see in 1 Timothy that the Apostle Paul is talking about things in chapter 1 that go against sound teachings. And so you could read that predominantly 1 Timothy 1, starting in verse 7 through 11. You could read that and you could see, because it talks about things that go against or things that are contrary to the sound teaching that conforms to the gospel. So if it doesn't come into agreement with the gospel, it's not sound. So I want to go over to now 2 Timothy, and this is chapter 4, verses 3 and 4, and it says this. For the time is coming when people will not put up with sound doctrine, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own desires, and turn away from listening to the truth and wander away to myths. So if it goes against the gospel, it's crazy. If it goes against the gospel, it's not sound teaching, it's not sound doctrine. So this all stemmed from sort of a statement, I guess, that was kind of made, or a little bit of a conversation, but basically we have these people now talking about all their trips to heaven. And nowhere does it say that in Scripture. We have this Sparkle Creed that I've done a video on previously, which is completely insane, which completely goes against good and sound teaching that is in the gospel. We have these people talking about God doing a new thing. God's doing a new thing right now. What new thing? The old thing hasn't been fulfilled. Jesus has not returned. What new thing is God doing right now? He might be asking you to lay down some sin, something that you have in your life, and get rid of that. But what new thing is God doing now if the old thing hasn't been fulfilled? See, these are just some examples of these crazy things that are going on in the world, in the body, that people are falling victim to because they're not reading the scriptures. And they're listening to these people say these things that are complete and utter crazy. Just as if we have people in the world now who think that men can menstruate, which is complete and utter crazy. So the more you say yes to crazy, the more crazy you become. And so I don't know if any of you have experienced this with friends or family members, but when you have a family member or a friend who used to be quite logical and reasonable, and they came into agreement with something, and you know they came into agreement with it because they told you, and you're like, how can you agree with that? And now 6 months later, they're agreeing with all kinds of other crazy. And I truly think the more you come into agreement with crazy, the more crazy you become. And so this passage is speaking about biblical things, but it certainly applies to every aspect of our lives. We are almost out of time. Armor up, we ride at dawn. May God bless you as always. Have a great day.